Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here, and welcome to the next episode of the Akashic Intelligence Report. So again, this is going to be a weekly series that I'll be doing here through the Wisdom Transmissions YouTube channel. I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to thank you all for your feedback for our first episode that was airing last week. I got a lot of good feedback from many of you. I appreciate your comments. This is what I kind of use as the meter stick to look into certain areas of topics, subjects that we'll be continuing to discuss as each week goes by. As I talked about in the first episode, what I'm primarily doing is utilizing my experience as an Akashic Records reader. And what I do is I perform a type of scribble, as I talked about last week, or as I refer to it as Akashic scribing. And I utilize that to kind of center myself while at the same time getting an algorithm. So it's kind of like you're tuning into the causal plane to which the Akashic records exist, and you're utilizing that particular type of scribing ideogram or algorithm to connect with the Akasha. And it's speaking internally to you, not as a voice, but as you could say a download, like an aha moment. In that way, it is something that instantly comes through to me where I'm performing that particular type of algorithm and then doing my best to translate and comprehend what I'm receiving. And like I said, I've been doing this now for many years. I started doing Akashic readings going back to 2011. So this is getting close to about 14 years in the making, doing this Akashic form of research, because it is research. Some of these topics I'm not even too aware of, and I do my best just to try and interpret it. So that's kind of the disclaimer. And again, nothing I share here is meant to be the be-all, end-all. It's not the gospel in any way. It is simply perspective. As I've always shared in videos, everything I share is simply that of my perspective, my point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very being, heart, and soul. So now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have today for the Akashic Intelligence Report. We're going to start off firstly with looking into this, and if you're having a hard time reading the board, hey, that's okay. I'm telling you exactly what we're looking at. First and foremost, if it's a little bit difficult to see this, I understand. It's a lot of glare with the lights. I also have radiate regen here in the background, and of course we can see that here on the board. So please bear with me. I will do my best to remind myself to share what we're talking about and what's written here on the board. Okay, so we're going to be looking firstly at shadow watchers. What does this mean precisely? Well, a lot of people, particularly since I've been doing sessions since 2009, a lot of people have been talking about shadow beings, about the idea where they may go to sleep at night and they see a silhouette of someone, and it looks like the silhouette of a man or a silhouette of a woman, whatever it may be, but it's just kind of there. And we often interpret these particular types of shadow beings as being malevolent or hostile or volatile in many different ways. So I'm going to be looking at the nature of what's termed as the shadow watchers, not shadow beings, but shadow watchers, right? And of course, I've talked to a lot of people who have had these encounters with these particular types of beings. So I'm going to create an algorithm here, go into some Akashic scribing. We're going to look a little bit more deeper into these shadow watchers, find out more about what they're about. So just give me a moment here. Okay. So what I'm getting as I'm pulling up their Akashic file, not all of these particular beings are hostile. Really what we're seeing here is we're looking at projections primarily. A lot of this has to do with certain beings. Some of them can actually be human. Some of them can be non-human. There's a mixed variety of them, right? They're not all volatile or horrendous or malevolent or regressive. Some of them can be, but there's a lot of them that are simply observers. When we have that kind of shadow silhouette of a shadow being, it's actually hiding behind a veil. Okay? Okay, so that's really what this is. The casting of the shadow just represents a veil representing this particular, I would call them being or watcher. Now, a lot of them are in observation. This is why they cast themselves in shadows, and you kind of have to really focus your eyes to even know that a shadow being or a shadow watcher is actually there. There are certain people who have developed themselves so well that they can actually see through the veil of a shadow being, and all of a sudden now we're seeing maybe a human being, or seeing another particular type of human or semi-humanoid or non-humanoid that is actually not able to keep themselves concealed, right? So they work together with those particular types of shadow veils to keep themselves kind of incognito so that they're observing in that way. Now, doesn't mean that they're trying to siphon your energy or anything of that nature. There can be beings like that, but shadow watchers they're numerous, and there's different types of them, but I refer to them mainly as watchers, and that they are basically in observation. They may be working together with your environment, they may be working together on you. Some of them can be beneficial, some of them may not be so beneficial. It really just depends. But again, a lot of people that will look at the shadow beings will get certain types of perceptions of them, believing that they're all volatile, that they're all hostile, that they're all malevolent, and that as soon as you get a shadow being, flood the light onto them, they're horrible, don't go near them. And that's not quite the truth, okay? Some of these shadow beings, in many different ways, can actually be your own guides, okay? So guides can be a part of this shadow watcher phenomenon. But again, when they're there, like I said, they may be watching the house, they may be protecting you from something as well too. It's very, very diverse in regards to the nature of shadow watchers or shadow beings, about what they represent. There can also be other ones that can be hostile, right? But it's very much a mixed bag, and I'm really just telling people, don't judge in regards to face value. Whenever you're looking at one who is concealed by shadow, they're basically in a type of pocket dimension, and they may be able to manifest themselves there. And again, that may just be part of their own presence to let you know that someone is here, someone is watching over you. And like I said, it could be a mixture of different agendas. It really all depends. There have been people who I've talked to who have had connections with the shadow watchers, and they haven't really done anything. And even when I'm scanning these shadow watchers, so there's nothing really hostile about them. I'm not sensing any hostility pertaining to a shadow watcher or a shadow being within your space. It's just someone who's really in a state of observation. They may be protecting your household. They may be protecting you. It could also be through the nature of intervention fleets, right? We may have shadow watchers as part of intervention fleets. We may also have shadow watchers that may be quite intrusive. So it really is kind of a inner discernment that we have to learn more about pertaining to shadow watchers, shadow beings. There's ones that exist in nature as well too. My fiance Brianne just recently had an experience with shadow watchers. They didn't do anything. They were really just kind of in observation. I've had feelings and of sensing of presences that are kind of watching me. They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything hostile. They're not doing anything horrible, right? And with me being quite sensitive to energies, I can usually tell if there's something that's attaching to me and pulling out energy or something of that nature, and I haven't felt that with them. So it all just depends, right? We have just like we have different types of human beings, we have different types of shadow watchers, but they do exist. They are very real, but a lot of the shadow beings or shadow watchers that we see are often projections, right? They're not actually tangible. They're sort of semi-tangible, but like I said, they're basically observing you through a type of pocket dimension, and they will use shadows as a means of concealment to preventing themselves from getting humans to know exactly who or what they are. Maybe there's something more of an agenda that will be shown here, maybe on a collective level, pertaining to shadow watchers and what they represent. But that's something I wanted to tell you guys about. They are indeed very real, but they have different agendas. They have different intentions behind each of them. Some of them can be beneficial, some of them can be helpful, some of them are simply just observers and neutral, some of them can be quite intrusive and regressive. So like I said, it's just something we may want to investigate a little bit further down the road. Speaking of shadow watchers, we're going to move on next into incognito ETs, okay? So we're going to look a little bit more into this. As I was talking about last week, even what we're seeing on television, we're seeing some human ETs on TV. They're in our government, they're in our entertainment, they're in the news, right? They may even be anchors at certain times as well too. There are a lot of incognito ETs here on the planet. So we're going to kind of look into the Akasha just to get an idea about what these incognito ETs are all about, why they're here, what they are doing, right? And of course, kind of looking at it from a collective approach, it's not going to give the answers to every single one of them, but we are going to go ahead and take a look more about these incognito ETs and see what they represent. Okay, so let's go ahead and tune in. There are many agendas pertaining to them. They're kind of like protectors, they're almost like watchers themselves, kind of like the shadow watchers. They observe humanity. There's also certain agendas that they're trying to push, okay? Some of them are not so friendly, and there are some that are. But I think the ones that are actually a little bit more in alignment to humanity are becoming more prominent now. And there are ones who were not so prominent, and I feel like they're being pushed out of the fold. I've talked about this before, where you basically have ones that are kind of like deceptors, right? And they're doing certain types of psychic influence, and they will act just like human beings are. They will appear as human beings are, they will act like us, but they are actually off-worlders, so to speak. So what I can sense here, as I'm looking into incognito ETs, there's quite a lot of them in branches of different governments and branches of intelligence agencies as well too. In fact, a lot of the technology that has been developed specifically for certain types of national agencies or international agencies are backed ET engineered technology, right? So a lot of them here, it feels like a lot more are coming in, because if we're looking at a pie right here, in the old days, we would probably see it kind of like this, okay? We could say maybe about 45% would represent regressives, 55% would represent supporters, okay? And now that's starting to shift. Or if we're looking at the pie again, it's kind of more like this. Right, here's the pie, maybe 10 to 15%, and the rest, let's say 85%, would represent supporters, okay? So there has been a great amount of takedowns. There has been a great deal of purging out a lot of these off-world human ETs that again may have some non-human ET connections that are basically being shifted out here. The good news is that we really have had a lot more supporters on the planet of incognito ETs than we have had of regressives. Okay, so it's not a very big turnaround relating to the regressives, thinking that they outnumber us, and that way they don't. Okay, so we're starting to see it kind of more like this now, where 85%, maybe even 90% of a lot of the incognito ETs here on planet Earth are actually working together in support of humanity. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. If I'm kind of looking into the Akasha as well too, just getting a rough number about the amount of incognito ETs on the planet. Let's take a look. Oof. I'm hoping this is right, because this is very interesting. $2 billion. 2 billion off-world human ETs on this planet. That's an incredible number. That's only coming up to about the 15-20% range. Again, that's an approximation, but that's the first thing that came to me, is about 2 billion of human beings on this planet are not human beings at all, not naturally born on this planet. We could also look into the idea of walk-ins, where the idea of, again, a soul comes into the body at a later time. Those can also be included in this, but there's a lot of incognito ETs on the planet. And like I said, that's just the first thing that came to me as soon as I did the algorithm here. I did the algorithm and 2 billion. 2 billion. 2 billion. I mean, if we're looking at a planet that's 8 billion humans right now, approximately, then we're looking at about a quarter of the population that's extraterrestrial. That's human ETs. That's quite something. We'll have to look into that down the road a little bit more. But if we have that many, like I said, it's hard to say what the gigantic agenda is, because I don't know if there is one. But it's like looking at a pie and you just have all of these different slices, right? You got all these different slices of the pie here, just every which way that you can imagine, right? There's just all of these particular types of agendas. And the fact that there's been a population explosion on the planet may represent the idea that maybe a lot of these incognito ETs are hybrids as well too. We could look into the idea of hybrids, but that's basically what came in through the Akasha, was saying about 2 billion of the world's population would be considered incognito extraterrestrial. Whew. Wow. So we could say about 75 to 80% of humanity on the planet, well, those are the homegrown humans. 20 to 25% are incognito ETs. Hybrids, perhaps, walk-ins, again, beings that have come here at a certain point and are integrating together with society. Okay? And as I said, maybe about 80, 85%, maybe 90% most would represent incognito ETs here to help out humanity. Well, that is something. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. Adronis never really gave me a ballpark figure. He would just say that they're within the many hundreds of millions, right? But I think he's being a little polite with that, because this is really saying that there are about 2 billion incognito human ETs on the planet. This is why I was getting the algorithm in the Akashic Records last week about that there's a lot of human ETs here, and a lot of them are in our media, and all different types, right? They're in our media, they're in our branches of government, they're in our armies, they're in our intelligence agencies, they're in our education, they're engineers. It's a vast number. And a lot of them just look like us. You could not tell them apart. Maybe I've bumped into a few of them over the years. That would certainly make a lot of sense. All I can do is assure you guys, I was born here on this planet. Okay, I didn't get dropped off by a ship or anything like that. So, but that's my own word. So take it for what it's worth. But yeah, that's what I'm getting here. It's a feeling of 2 billion incognito extraterrestrial humans on the planet here that are aiding, that are working together, that are helping to steer humanity into a proper direction. Maybe that's necessary. Maybe that's all part of repopulation protocol, right? Because I have talked about repopulation protocol on my channel. Just run a search, repopulation protocol, and you'll find some videos with me talking about it, okay? But 2 billion is what I'm getting here for incognito ETs, and the majority of them are working together in support of humanity's future. So that's going to be very interesting to look into a little bit more down the road. Okay, so taking a look at Fort Knox, of course, President Trump has talked a lot about Fort Knox, but he's done it in a very interesting way, where he says, well, we're just going to open up Fort Knox and see if the gold is there. Why would you even say that? Fort Knox obviously should have gold, shouldn't it? Why would you even assume that the gold is not there? You see, this is kind of like the double entendre. This is kind of like looking at the hyperbole about his language, right? About kind of reading in between the lines. He's basically already telling you the gold's not there. Okay, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's take a look at Fort Knox. If Fort Knox legitimately has gold within its walls, so to speak, let's take a look at Fort Knox. Nope. A lot of it has been taken out. I can't say all of it has, but a vast majority of the gold in Fort Knox is not there. And if it is there, it's basically counterfeit gold, which means we could probably look at something we have a gold bar here, okay, we could basically see lead bars or something of that nature. Okay, basically in disguise, you may actually start to see a lot of gold bars or quote unquote types of gold bars, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're lead. Okay. A lot of the gold in Fort Knox has been taken. The good news is they're going to launch investigations to bring a lot of that gold back. They're going to check out where the gold is. They're going to investigate it. Okay, so I can't say all of it is gone, but I would say, if I'm looking into it, between about 80% plus is, if it's there, it's not real gold. Okay. Or again, if they're looking in the vaults, if they're looking in the storerooms, etc., and they see that there's a lot of gold bars there, they probably start doing some analysis and saying, you know, these are lead bars. So a lot of Fort Knox has been pillaged over the years. They haven't been able to get all of the gold, but they've certainly been able to get the vast majority, because it's true, this gold belongs to the people. This is the people's gold. And they've robbed it, you know, obsessively. Even if we're looking at 9/11, okay, 9/11 was a heist, stealing a lot of gold underneath WTC. Okay, there were vaults and vaults of gold there as well too. So like I said, they did their best to rob Fort Knox, and they did their best to try and rob the WTC back on that special date. So they have been robbing the US and a lot of its treasuries for decades, okay? And now that there is this kind of fingerprint that they left behind, they're going to be sought out. Those people that have taken the gold are going to be found, they are going to be taken down, and that gold is going to return. When that gold returns, here's prosperity funding, right? So that is really what, I mean, this is great. Just seeing all these things unfold right now, it's like, oh my God, I talked about these years ago, about that there's going to be investigations that are coming together to bring the power of the people back together, the funds, the finances that belong to the people, all of it's coming back. And within the next couple of years, could even be less than that, here's prosperity funding. Here's universal income. I'm not talking about Nasara Gasara. I'm talking about prosperity funding, prosperity programs, okay? Free education for everyone. There are probably going to be homes that are going to be set up that will either be, number one, available for every family, where they do not have to pay anything because they will have either subsidy or prosperity programs. There will be clothing privileges. There will be food privileges. America is really going to change itself around, in Canada, and a lot of other countries are going to follow suit with this, because the wealth is now starting to come back to the people. And this isn't just going to happen in the States, this is going to happen in so many different countries. There are going to be coalitions that are going to be created that are following the United States example. So we're going to see, oops, of course I'm going to spell these things wrong, coalitions, country to country, right? So I'll just call it end to end, nation to nation, that are going to take place, that are going to bring about, and this says coalitions, nation to nation, okay? This says lead, in case you guys can't see it. Apologize if you can't see it too well. But there are going to be cooperations of nations that are working together, creating maybe these particular types of task forces or government agencies of efficiencies that are going to come together and sweep the entire mass of countries all over the planet and bringing trillions of dollars back to the people. And we could probably see this unfold within the span of 4 years. Okay? So it's all kinds of countries that's going to do it. The West is going to do it. The East is going to do it. The Middle East can basically kiss its ass goodbye, pertaining to all the rich multi-billionaires there, because they are going to, they're going to be prodded, so to speak. They're going to be heavily investigated. A lot of these tycoons that are living in the Middle East, because we're going to get to that next. I hope you guys really enjoy your wealth, because you're not going to have it for much longer. You're about to go bye-bye. okay? Because that's exactly what's happening here over the next couple of years. So Fort Knox is going to be investigated. 9/11 is going to be investigated. All of these particular forms of how do you even put it? Billionaire heists over the decades are going to be investigated to find out exactly where did the gold go. You follow the paper trails, you follow the money, right? And these people are going to be investigated, and you're probably looking back at billionaire families, trillionaire families even, and their associates, and all of them are basically going to be dismantled. We are moving further and further into a complete and total decentralized civilization. That's what's happening right now. It's not going to happen all at once, but we're leading into that over the next couple of years of looking into complete and total decentralization, because all of these thieves, all of these criminals are going to be taken down. So Fort Knox, yes, majority of it is either empty or it's been replaced by counterfeit bars, okay? And over 80% from what I'm getting. So there's still maybe about 20% gold there, but 80% is either missing or seen as counterfeit bars, right? Just grabbing a bunch of lead bars and putting that in place to say, oh, hey, we haven't done anything. You see all the golds there, and then they start investigating. There's lead bars here, there's counterfeit bars here. So it's either one of two ways with that. But all I'm getting is that, yes, 80% of the gold that should be at Fort Knox is missing and is not there, or again, is counterfeit. Hey everybody, we're going to get back into the video in just a moment, but I want to take this minute just to remind you to check out wisdomtransmissions.com, as I am doing private sessions one-to-one with clients. 30-minute, 45-minute, and 60-minute sessions are available. If you want to talk to me, you want to experience an interactive channeling session with Adronis, that is available through the private sessions. I'm also doing full body scans, scanning your entire physical body, your entire energy body, your nutritional body, looking at the minerals, at the vitamins that are contained in your body or lack thereof, helping you out in that way. Also looking into DNA scans, specifically methylation genes. That's available with the full body scan that's on wisdomtransmissions.com. I'm also doing energy cord attunements. So that again is where I'm looking into your energy body. If you have, again, up to 3 discrepancies that you want to have worked on, I will work with those energy cords and help to clear out a lot of that debris. I've had a lot of success with people that have come to me wanting to look deeper into their energy cords to help clear out a lot of common matters, physically, mentally, emotionally. And of course, I'm doing Akashic sessions once again. So Akashic sessions by email, looking into a past lifetime, and also looking into Yoga Nidra Akashic record sessions. That is also available on wisdomtransmissions.com. Please go check it out. This helps me out a lot with the support I get from clients, from the services that I've offered and have been offering for well over 16 years. Check it out today, wisdomtransmissions.com. And now, let's return back to the video. Okay, so the next topic we're going to discuss is we're going to look into the Middle East, okay, just as I was talking about. So let's look more into the Middle East, primarily about how a lot of the greatest wealth in the world can be found within the Middle East. Of course, it can also be found in China as well too, but the Middle East has a prominent hold on a great amount of the world's wealth, okay, because that's a stronghold for the thieves. If you want to look at the den of thieves, you look to the Middle East. Okay, so let's take a look at the Middle East in regards to its billionaire population or multi-billionaire population, dare even say trillionaire population, and what's going to be happening to them. Oh yeah, the people are going to be rising up, and these people who are just wiping their butts with silk, right, are going to have everything taken away from them, okay? And if I'm even looking at this about when this is looking to occur, probably within the next 2 years, okay? Within about the next 2 years, I mean, there's things happening right now, of course, but you're looking at, even with what the United States has been able to find through Doge, right, about how $40 million per week is being sent to the Taliban, how all of this money from the United States pertaining to quote-unquote foreign aid are basically funding all of these terrorist organizations. ISIS, Taliban, the Jihad, etc. All of these particular proxy armies, because that's what they are, they're a bunch of mercs. That's the whole nature between Israel and Palestine, my friends. Do you think that's a real war? That's engineered. Everything in regards to the conflict between Israel and Palestine from its beginnings have been engineered proxy wars. It's not real. Unfortunately, people have been caught in the middle of this because people have been killed by these fake wars because they're profit, they're engineered, they're created by corporations. Right? Because they're seizing land, they're seizing resources. Israel wants to become a superpower itself, and it wants to seize all of its land. And then, of course, we look at what's happening with Palestine. Palestine starts getting thrown into this mix by having proxy armies that are not of its culture, that are now trying to fight back to egg on the war between Israel and Palestine. Israel and Palestine is not even a real war. It's a corporate war. It's a proxy war. It's created by a bunch of mercs that operate on behest of corporate greed. And Israel's just trying to be a superpower. They want all of that land for itself because of the precious resources that reside upon that land. Right? The land of Israel is a precious resource, and its resources are even greater than what we're told. Okay, if I'm even looking at the land of Israel and seeing what's there. Okay, let's take a look. There's buried extraterrestrial technology, there's ancient tech, there's all kinds of metals, there's all kinds of precious ores, there's billions and billions of dollars of resources, guess what, that are held right where the Palestinians are. Right? And the reason is they just want to wipe them out so that they can acquire the land, so that they can start acquiring the resources that the Palestinians are on. That's what this is all about. This is not a genuine war at all. This is a corporate war. And then you get proxy armies going to the other side, trying to egg on the warfare, trying to make it feel justified of what, this whole mess is continuing to do. Israel and Palestine have never been a legitimate fight. It's been for corporate interests, it's been for resources, it's been for greed, and unfortunately bloodshed has come in the middle of it. Because of these fake wars that take real lives, that's what's behind Israel and Palestine, the fight for resources. Just like everything else, just like Iraq, just like all the other things happening in the Middle East, for these tycoons to get even richer. Right? So you got these multi-billionaire tycoons waging war in the Middle East because Middle East is such a precious resource. Right? There's all kinds of treasures there, right? Even beyond precious ores, like I said, you have ancient relics, you have ancient technologies, you have ancient stargates, you have ancient spacecraft, you have all kinds of valuable resources that exist within the Middle East. You have the technology of ancients that are there, portal technology. You basically have, how they were even able to develop the whole nature of the Great Hadron Collider, Large Hadron Collider, is all based on reverse tech, probably that they've gotten from the Middle East, right? Stargate technology, really. Interdimensional Stargate technology, and the Middle East is a hub for that, okay? So all of this is based on resources of mercenary armies, of creating particular groups that are primarily corporate created. Taliban's a corporate creation. ISIS is a corporate creation. All of these particular Middle Eastern groups, just giving them fancy names, are all based upon Western corporate greed and Western creation. They're all responsible. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people on my channel already know this. It's not really big disclosure information, but it's true. It's just confirming what we've known for a very, very long time. None of the wars in the Middle East have ever been legitimate. It's all been based on corporate greed. It's all based on proxy armies. It's all based on acquiring resources. Greed, in their eyes, surpasses the importance of life. They have little regard for anybody that's there. The Palestinians have been holding on tooth and nail to try to protect their land that is rightfully theirs, but they're being exterminated because they want them off the land, and because they can't just go in and exterminate, they have to try and create these stories, and so they'll try and create liberation front armies that claim to be Palestinian, and then try to utilize that for more aggression to try to destroy them, right? That's what this is all about. It's disgusting, it's despicable, it's revolting, but that's what greed does. And it's horrible. But the good news, from what I'm seeing, is that their particular charade of everything that's going on that's making these rich people richer, I said, I hope you guys can hold your money really tight, because you're about to lose it all, right? So every particular multi-billionaire that has basically received their blood money, whether we're looking at Saudi Arabia or whatever, right? All of these rich tycoons are about to lose it all. They're going to be thrown out. All right. Right now, there may be some people laughing at that. So, oh, you wait a couple of years. You wait about 2 years or so, and you start seeing exactly how there's going to be. I don't even know if I would even call it trials. I don't even know if these guys are going to have trials. They're just going to have everything taken away from them, because they hold a mass majority of the world's wealth that belongs to the people, right? The wealth that they hold, like I said, the blood money that they hold, that belongs to the people. This is why I say that trillions of dollars in the next few years is going to come back to the people. Everybody's basically going to be in a point where they're not going to struggle anymore. All of these trillions of dollars are going to be fed like a river back towards people all over the world. This is going to end world hunger. This is going to end everything, poverty. All of it is going to flush away over the next few years. So again, as we're seeing it right now, we're just starting to see like the beginning of that tide. And that tidal wave is going to come and it's going to crash upon the shore. And then there's going to be the fruits of that tide coming in and bringing good tidings, right? So we're going to see a lot of change taking place here. And the Middle East is basically going to be completely and totally investigated. The rich there are going to lose everything. Okay, so this is basically what I'm saying, is these super billionaires who have been hoarding their money, who have been using blood money to acquire their wealth, are going to lose everything. All of it's going to be taken down. That's what's happening in the Middle East. Right now, we're already starting to see that tide start to rise. And it's going to continue to rise. And like I said, over a span of about 2 years, we're going to see it starting to crash upon the shore, bringing good tidings to the people. But the people who have been embezzling it with blood money, your days are numbered. If we could basically look at the idea of a biblical judgment day, that's exactly what's in store for them. Moving on to our second to last topic, we're looking at the money trail. Okay, so like I said, we're looking at an organization like Doge, okay, pertaining to finding where all this money is going. Okay, and what are going to be some bigger, I would even say some bigger revealings that are going to take place. Well, let's take a look here. Pertaining to Doge, perhaps to looking more into where the money trail is leading. A lot of black ops projects, I feel, are going to be revealed. I think we're going to see some transparency on a lot of these hidden military compounds, these military installations. I think we're going to see some black projects coming into awareness on a public level, okay? So you could say black projects that deal with all kinds of sophisticated technology, with tech, is going to come into the scene here. Wouldn't surprise me if we have something like Dreamland, Area 51 being completely and totally transparent over the next little while. Not right away, but over the next little while. Looking at all of these classified forms of technology that are now starting to come out, it's like I've talked about before. In times ahead, we're going to see things like TR-3Bs just becoming very, very natural, right? It's just, okay, people are seeing triangular ships in the sky, big deal. Right? That's going to be a way of life. Of course, they're going to be re-engineered. They're going to have different forms of aeronautic designs to them and so forth. But you're looking at things like TR-3Bs that are going to be very, very natural that may start to come. Of course, we're looking at a lot of drone technology, of course. So we're seeing a lot of black projects coming together. Of course, we're seeing these politicians right, embezzling all this money, they're going to be taken out of the picture. And I think we're also going to see the dissolvement of a two-party system. Two-party systems are going to be dissolved. It's not going to be about parties anymore. It's going to be about leaders. It's going to be more like a meritocracy. That's really what's coming. So if we're looking at Democrats and Republicans, both of them are going to die away, right? So if we're looking at all these two-party systems or multi-party system tiers, even from country to country, all of that's going to fall away because we see exactly the paper trails, the money trails that they leave, how all these politicians are embezzling millions of dollars. And it's like, where are you getting all this money? Where are you getting all this fortune from yourself? Oh, you're cutting all these deals, right? You're basically embezzling more and more money out of people's pockets, putting it into your own, right? So you have these senators, you have these MPs, you have all these people taking bribes, wanting big expensive pensions, right? Running businesses, running embezzled organizations. They're all going to be taken down, okay? So, even in the first term, Trump was looking to clean the swamp. It's like the first 110 days that he's been in office, he has cleaned more of the swamp out in those first 100 days than what he did in his first term combined, right? He is not messing around. He has a lot more stroke this time around, right? So he has a lot of his personal ambitions that he's able to take care of, right? There are, again, people that are telling him this is exactly what you need to focus on, but he has his own agendas and ambitions, and he's not wasting any time. He has got a hell of a team with him, right? So we're looking at the idea of these money trails. We're releasing black projects, new technologies that are going to really revolutionize the way that we travel across the world, where we could fly out from Los Angeles and go all the way to China within about an hour, right? We're going to have these incredible forms of advanced technologies that are going to coming together. And like I said, I've talked about TR3Bs before, and I think we're going to see more of those coming together, right? So those are the triangular craft, the black triangular craft. Again, different forms of aeronautical design, I would say, but the core of it, the essence of it, is still going to be there, okay? So we're going to see a lot of the money trail. And like I said, it is going to bring back hundreds of billions. It is going to bring trillions of dollars back into the people's pockets, right? This whole world is, over the next few years, I would say even before we get into 2030, is now going to start seeing all of this fortune coming back into the hands of people. You won't need to work anymore. If you work because it's voluntary, right? Yes, we're going to see the rising of AI. Yes, we're going to see the rising of androids and robots and so forth. A lot of them are going to be doing a lot of the dirty jobs, so to speak, or even a lot of the mundane jobs that human beings have had to use. What is humanity going to do? Better ourselves. It's a Star Trek future, right? That's like just watching an episode of Star Trek and you know exactly what they're doing. They're going to start exploring. They're going to start looking much more into what the earth is all about, looking into its ancient history. We're going to look into bettering ourselves as a civilization. Money will not be something that will be a problem. Everyone is going to have their own share, where they will have their own home, their families will be provided for. You'll have free clothing, you'll have free food, you'll have free education, you'll have all of the basic needs covered. You will not have to pay for that anymore. And that I see definitely happening as we move into the 2030s, right? So like I said, we're just starting to see the benchmark of that taking place right now. I've talked about this for years, and now we're just getting closer and closer to that time. All of this stuff that has been kept under wraps is now being transparent. What has happened through a lot of these false flag events is going to be revealed, right? We've seen the stuff with JFK. A lot of people knew already what was happening with him before they even brought that out. Martin Luther King, etc. All of that was basically already known. And this is the idea of saying, well, hey, the conspiracy theorists were right about all these things. And we're going to see 9/11. 9/11's all about a big heist. It was a robbery. Okay? It was all just criminal activity trying to, again, steal fortunes of gold bars underneath the World Trade Center, trying to, again, create terrorism so that they can rob the entire planet dry. That's what it's about. All of this comes down to greed. All of this comes down to embezzlement. All of this comes down to murder and brutality, all so the rich can get richer. That's all it's about, right? It's all about feeding that 0.1%. It's not 1%. Okay, it's the 0.1. Just about feeding them, just about giving them more power, more greed, more wealth, more fortune, and more blood stains on all of that fortune. That's what they've been about. That's what a lot of these particular forms of agendas have been about. How can we get richer? How can we get richer? How can we get more wealth? How can we get all of this fortune coming to us so that we never have to worry, right? And like I said in the previous episode about them building these DUMBs, these deep underground military bases that go on for miles and miles, and they have all kinds of food underneath there. They have everything that they need to live and survive, and they were planning to utilize those as they primarily poisoned everybody on the surface, stay down there for a couple of generations, and then come back up. They have all this particular type of healing technology that can add longevity to their age, and they could probably live a couple of 100 years, right? All of that's been kept in the dark. So there you go. Final topic we're going to be talking about today are cleanses. Okay, so looking at parasitic cleanses, looking at deworming cleanses as well too. I know David Wilcock actually just did a live a few days ago, and he was talking about utilizing a certain type of horse supplement to help with purging a lot of the bad gut bacteria out of you, right? And there's a lot of people talking. Joe Rogan has also talked about him utilizing a certain particular type of formula. I don't think I'm allowed to say it on YouTube, right? It starts with a capital I, okay? So I will refer to it as the Ivor. Okay, that's all I'm going to call it. I'm not going to call it anything else. And I'm just looking into the nature of Mr. Ivor. Okay, I'm just going to talk about Mr. Ivor here for a moment. And let's take a look at how effective Mr. Ivor is pertaining to people. Okay, we're just going to kind of look into its Akashic file here pertaining to Mr. Ivor. It certainly is a very beneficial ingredient. It is something that will primarily clean you out, but you have to utilize certain forms of systematic approaches as well too, so that you're not drained, okay? It's like just a heavy, intense cleanser. It just thoroughly cleanses everything out of you, right? Anything, unfortunately, a lot of it also cleanses out a lot of the good stuff at the same time. So if you really want a heavy, hardcore cleaning of your entire body, you would want to look into Mr. Ivor, okay? And it is very effective, but you need to have protocols. You need to have systems in places, because it's very, very difficult to get Mr. Ivor right now. And people are basically relying on horse meds, okay, to get even some of Mr. Ivor, right? People are basically turning to horse meds to get that. So what I'm basically here to share with you is actually looking much more into Ayurveda, because Ayurveda does just as good a job, and there are really hardly any side effects involved pertaining to Ayurvedic medicine, because Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, for thousands of years, has been successful in deworming and cleansing out parasites, okay, harsh bacteria, which I'll just say H-bact, okay, deworming, parasites, harsh bacteria. There is actually a link in the video description of a shop that I'm recommending you guys check out, okay? It is on Vancouver Island, so it's in my own neck of the woods here in BC, and they have herbal tincture formulas, specifically parasitic cleanses, that will do just as good a job as this, okay? I'd like you guys to check it out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything of that nature. I've already ordered some of their content, so to speak, okay? And I've known about Ayurvedic medicine and its benefit for years, and I'm just very happy that there is a company here in British Columbia, Canada, that offers this, and their tinctures are highly potent, Okay, so that's something I would suggest you guys check out. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by them. You'll find it there in the video description. And I even have a recommended product that you could use. Like I said, that's just as effective as this, because I'm going to actually look at this right now about the idea of their parasitic cleansing tincture. Okay, so here's ivermectin. Let's take a look at Ayurvedic parasitic cleanse tincture. Okay. So much more safer. So much more safer. Less protocols to follow. You can utilize it much more in accordance with your daily diet, with your daily needs. Okay, so you're basically taking this like 3 times a day, 5 mils with their parasitic tinctures, and from what I can tell here, it's just so much more cleaner. Okay, so you don't need to fumble over horse meds. Go Ayurveda. Okay. They have known how to do this. They have known to clear out parasites. They have known to deworm people, human beings, okay? You're not getting something for horses or something for cattle or something for guinea pigs or whatever, okay? There's always risks with those things because there are certain ingredients that human beings just aren't compatible with because they're meant for animals. If you want the safer route, you go Ayurveda, okay? So please check out the link in the video description. Check them out. Based right here in British Columbia, Canada, on Vancouver Island, because all of their ingredients are from BC, right? It's local. It's wonderful. So that would be my recommendation to check out. If you really want to give yourself a deep cleanse, lose a lot of weight. I've lost a few pounds, but I'm still going to lose a little bit more. Looking to lose a little bit more. And I'm working together a lot more with Ayurveda. Okay, so I would suggest you guys check that out. So guys, I know we've had a pretty long episode today because we've covered a lot. Okay, I think I'll break this down into certain small components, into small snippets as well too, and add that both on YouTube and TikTok as well too. Okay, you can also find me on TikTok with Wisdom Transmissions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys next week for the next episode of the Akashic Intelligence Report. Take care. Blessings to you all. Namaskar, and may it be well with you.
Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations.